is, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing. Let me. Oh no, you have a better tie than mine.
No, this is no tie.
No, really. It's just your buttons. Ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, for those, Larry, this is Maestro Low. I call this a confrontation of bubbles. My bubble, people who follow me, will get in touch, get in contact with the bubble that follows you. What I want to, for people to understand is, well, last time we saw each other, this is no joke. Last time we talked was 1996. Is this correct?
I think so.
And
I mean, we've talked on the
you,
phone a couple times, and I think that we've emailed when you were in doing the opera stuff in Missouri.
that's right.
You were doing some of that stuff. We were a little bit in touch, but as far as like
right.
face to face like this, it's been a long time.
Yes, no, and it's. I mean, it's a world-class event. What's happening here? I'm not sure people realize what's happening here.
This is a huge deal.
Yes, I'm not sure people realize the amount of talent that there is in this connection right here.
That's right.
Anyway, last time we talked,
yes,
you were 12. Is that correct?
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Which
in graduate school.
Now you what, 26, 28, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Good, excellent. No, Larry, I'm kidding, but obviously, last time we talked, we were kids.
Yeah.
And now you're an adult. You're a serious human being. Look at you. You have a family. You have kids. I mean, it's like you're an adult, and obviously, I haven't grown up.
Well, I think I'm basically the same. You know, that's how I feel as like 1996, and it seems like you're exactly the same, which is good. I think that's a good thing.
Anyway, we had so much fun. We went to
it was great.
We went to IU, Indiana University. Because you were a much better musician, much better student, and wait, stop, let me talk. A much better musician, a much better student, and just much better prepared for life. I was just a spoiled, rotten brat who was not ready to be confronted with my own limitations. And wait, let me finish. And
I want to see where this goes.
What I'm saying is, and maybe you'll agree with me, IU is good at showing you your limitations.
That's true. That's true.
And
with
then,
so many people there, you know, it's just
I know.
overwhelming.
I always made fun that, you know, I always say that the voice, you know, the voice faculty, you know, everybody was so tough. I mean, it was so hard work that I don't know how many like speech pathologists that department produced, because it's singers who decided not to sing anymore. So they went into speech pathology and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they're in every area there, because the competition was fierce. I think in a way it's kind of like you're in a small version of the real world,
right?
Where you're not the only person that does what you do and who feels like they're good at what they do. There are a lot of people like that, and so
exactly,
it's a good way of kind of having a dose of reality. And I mean, if you were a soprano at IU, I think when we were there were 300 of them. And that's not even an exaggeration. They would talk about the 300 sopranos, and I think that was an accurate number. You know, Sylvia McNair was there, and she was completely invisible when she was at IU before us. You know, but that just to know that. And so, anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a great. I don't know. I love being there, but I was there for 4 years. How long were you there? Were you there the whole time that I was there?
I think I left at the end of '96, and
me too.
'93 and '96. I was there between 93 and 96.
So I was there 1 year before you,
right?
And I remember after there, I went to Yale, which was really small. I mean, tiny program. And it was really strange to know
Yale, ladies and gentlemen.
everyone.
Is that Yale that you heard about? You know, it's that university. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Keep going. Yeah.
Right. So at Yale, there were very few students in the music school compared to IU. You know, it's probably like the number of sopranos at IU was the number of students at Yale. And so it was amazing to within like a couple months to know everyone. But you know, when we were at IU, we were meeting new people all the time. It was I don't know. It was I love both for different reasons, but I loved IU because I got to know you there, and that was, you know, that you were so awesome to hang out with.
Oh, stop. No, it was fun because, you know, I think who introduced you to me was Tina Joe,
Yes.
because you were, I mean, both of you, Korean heritage,
Yeah.
and I think you were in her Korean class. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. We did
And
an
then
intensive
she
summer.
said, Alex, there's this conductor, and I was something, and I'm like, oh my God. And we were, I mean, it was friendship at first sight.
Totally. Totally.
Because, and I'll tell you this, we are both peacocks.
So I wanted to ask about that because you put that in the thing, and so do you mean peacock like I'm, you know, like hello world, it's me, and you jump into
Yes.
the room and you know you
Yeah,
want
I
all the
mean, the two of us know how charming we are.
I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna push back on that only from me, on my side. Definitely 1000%. I feel like you were that, and I think to a lesser degree, maybe I was part of that. I socially confident, but I don't. It was just different. You know, you would come into the room, and I feel like it would be like like you'd come in, all the spotlights go on you, and then you'd like go over to the piano and I'd play something, and then you'd sing it before class. I mean, it was like the most confident social uh, person that I had ever come across.
But so are you. But except that the way we charm people is different.
Maybe,
Let
yeah.
me, let me analyze you. I'm a good interviewer.
Okay, you
Let
do
me
it.
analyze. First, I mean, just that, you conduct without a baton, right?
Um, a lot, but not
How do
exclusively.
people know you're the conductor if you're not holding a baton? I mean, people say, how do they know you're the conductor? I'm just kidding, Larry. But what I'm saying is, but that's part of it. I mean, you stand in front of the orchestra and you charm them. You are. I've seen some of your rehearsals. There's some stuff in the web. I did my homework. I know, for example, that your dream is to do Mahler 8. We'll talk
Yes,
about that. See?
yes,
But you have this, and both of us have worked as guest conductors with orchestras, correct?
yes.
There are a few things on earth that scare us more than the first 15 minutes with a guest conductor with an orchestra. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yep, yeah, sure.
Because you have those first 15 minutes to show them without saying much
Yeah,
who you are.
yeah.
So I remember the first time I did an opera, for example, and was Stuart Lutzenheiser, our great.
Yes, Stuart.
Do you remember the happy
Oh,
birthday to you that we sang for Tina in a restaurant?
yes,
The three of us in three
yes.
voices. That was the.
I loved, okay, just as an aside, Stuart was the most fun person to stand next to in chorus because you felt like your voice was the same as his. He would sing, and then you're like,
It was like
oh my
standing
gosh,
behind
what's coming
beside
out of my mouth is.
Pavarotti. I
Yeah,
know. It's unbelievable. Anyway,
yeah.
so
Okay.
Stuart invites me. He says, Alex, can you do Rigoletto? And I'm like, no, but I will. And so I fly to Seattle, to Bellevue, whatever. It's a in the neighborhood of Seattle.
Yep. Hmm.
To do Rigoletto with a 2 weeks notice. So I have to study that thing like I'm going to die,
Yeah.
And it was my first experience in front of a professional orchestra to do Rigoletto,
Yeah.
and I was horrified But that's the thing. They didn't flag me as a fraud.
Mm.
So I said, wait a minute, I can do this.
Mm.
And it was so much, I started doing it for fun. And then I really started studying and all of that. How did it happen with you? Because I see, I mean, you and I have this thing about you have to connect with the players more than anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How,
As people. Yeah.
right. Exactly. I don't know. I mean, I'm just so happy that you're here, Larry.
Oh my gosh. This is awesome. I've been looking forward to this ever since you invited me. When I get in front of a new orchestra, I mean, you were saying 15 minutes of terror. I think the first like 5 seconds, I mean, really, like when you walk out for the rehearsal, that is a part of the judgment, like that you
Of
feel as a
course.
conductor. Because if you walk out and you're like, or you're
Yeah.
like confident, or
That's what
you're
I'm talking
insecure,
about.
like, they can
This is
see
what I'm
all
talking
of
about.
that. They can
Yeah.
see all of that. So you get up on the podium, the first words that you say will make an impact on the way that it goes. And you can usually tell if the orchestra is going to be behind you, I mean, pretty much immediately.
Sure.
Um, but every time I get in front of a new orchestra, now for me, I get excited about it more than I'm afraid of it.
Sure.
But that took a really long time for that pendulum to lean in that direction. In the beginning, I remember just like the most nerve-wracking thing was anticipating and figuring out in your head, like playing out how it's going to go before it even happens, because you're so worried. And if you are sensitive to people and you're sensitive to body language, you see someone go like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, they hate me. So
I suck.
yeah. So it's hard to have that kind of confidence if you are overreading what everyone does. And actually, I think that through these years, me conducting so many different orchestras, I've definitely, I mean, much more than back then, have a little bit of a safety net of, I think, emotional. It's not really a barrier, but I have to not let everything get to me, or I won't be
Sure.
able to do it,
Of
and
course.
I think, and
Of
it's
course.
hard if it's your nature,
Sure.
if it's your nature to care about what people think, to
I
want
know.
people to like you, if you want people to be behind what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, as we grow old, I mean, it's like we start to very respectfully. I mean, you understand what I'm saying, but you start to care less and less about what people think about you,
Yeah.
and start to have to look for things like, okay, I want to do this,
Hmm.
and I hope they'll be with me, and if they aren't, okay, they're lost, something
Yeah.
like that. Because
No, that's and that's when you see a person, because when I was with like Dallas and Pittsburgh and Colorado, I would see all kinds of conductors come through, and they would stand in front of the orchestra, and I'd be the backup conductor for a lot of these. And I
sure,
would see the ones who would go up there, and you can see the ones that just want to get everything that they want musically out of the orchestra without any of these, like, oh, I'm worried about the way that I come across. Or anyone who has that self-consciousness that you can detect, they are generally less effective, at least if
of
it
course,
shows.
of course.
And so then you see these amazing people come through who just are 100% going for what they want musically, and I admire that so much, because it's just, as a human being, against our nature to be that way, I think. I mean, for most people, and
Sure.
especially people like you and I.
Mhm.
So when I see that, I admire it so much, and it's definitely something that has happened for me with new groups, and it helps
Sure,
me stay sane.
sure. It's true.
You know?
No, I remember with that first experience, that I mentioned with the
Yeah.
Rigoletto thing, I was so scared. I mean, I thought I was going to have a heart attack before the rehearsal. All I did, and I have an accent, right? So obviously, the minute I open my mouth, people know, like, oh, where's this guy from?
But
wait, you're gonna say the accent. You're gonna say
yes,
the accent
you
can
know what I was
act in
gonna
your
say.
favor. Aren't
Yes.
you gonna say the accent
Yes.
can act in your favor? You're gonna say
Absolutely.
that, right?
100%.
Wrong accent.
I don't agree.
This is nicht ein Deutsch accent. This is, not. So what I did with the Rigoletto is, like I said, page 1. I opened it and blah, started right in the beginning. Nothing. I said nothing. And I conducted and sang through the first act without speaking a word. And then I said, okay, good, nice sound. Let's work this. And then they were with me. I'm like, okay. But what they didn't know is that I was about to have a heart attack. But, it was my way of just, okay, I can do this.
Getting through it.
Fine.
Yep. No, I think that's a good plan. When you get in front of an orchestra for the first time, or any group of musicians, if you don't kind of let it go for a little bit so that they get to know you from a physical standpoint, if you stop immediately and try to correct things immediately, you will lose them. So it's a great, what you did there, your first time in, really worked in your favor because they could see that you could sing, they could see that you could show what you wanted with your gesture, and then by the time you get to the end, your accent is charming.
Right. And another thing that I said, and again, my homework I did. You say that the ideal is the human voice. That the human voice is the ideal instrument, or something. You said something to that effect. As in, for example, I don't understand each instrument's technique to the same way that each instrumentalist understands their own technique. I can talk about the oboe the same way the oboist can. So instead of trying to learn all the words and techniques and all, I said, look, can I hear, instead of fwa fwa fwa, can I hear tupa tupa tupa? And the person is able to imitate what I'm doing instead of, oh, double tongue that, please, because it may seem like I'm trying to, show off. I don't know.
Yeah. When you work with a professional orchestra, they're all masters of their instruments. You're never going to say to them, can you do, technically this? And so when I relate that to, when I compare it to the human voice, it's because a phrase has to breathe. It has a natural warmth or expression. There might be vibrato in the sound. There's a very wide palette of possibility for sound. And, many instruments are trying to emulate the human voice anyway, from the very beginning, string instruments especially. And when you have breath in the phrase, especially with an instrument that doesn't naturally breathe like a string instrument, then you make it sound more relatable to the listener. If it's something like, it's like a language, it's like what they might hear a person sing. The more we can get in that direction, the more expressive and more connective it can be to the listener.
Sure. Now let me ask you something that you may decide not to answer. Okay, it's somewhat personal. I want you to tell me one of your rehearsal tragedies or some failure. For example, let me tell you this. In Seattle, they asked me to do Bohème. So Bohème is not Rigoletto, right?
Yeah.
Rigoletto, fine. 1, 2, 3, I'm done. We're all out of here. Let's have pizza. Bohème, not Rigoletto. So I never studied anything that hard in my whole life. Never. It was the hardest score I've ever, it was incredibly hard. So I get 10 hours a day study and for weeks. So I get to Seattle. As I go on stage for the first rehearsal, they have a different edition. It was a reduction, and I had no idea. So instead of harp, I have a bassoon or something like that, playing that. Different keys, different everything.
Oh.
And I have to solve some chord problems in Puccini right there as they're in front of me. I never sweat that much in my whole life. I mean, I was like, You know, I have a little towel that I bring with me. It was, I mean, it was a wreck. It was a train wreck. I was able to do it. And at the end of the rehearsal, I said, I am a conductor. I can do this. But by the end of, I mean, I was ill. I was physically ill, you know, with the amount of stress. We did it, but it was terribly stressful. Would you be able to tell us some lovely story like that?
Well, sure. I mean, like going back to student days. So when I was at IU, I mean, there are many things throughout my career, but I remember the first big thing that was really embarrassing was I was conducting the Coriolan Overture, Beethoven.
Sure.
With one of the orchestras. I was assigned to do it at IU. And when I got to the end, there are these 3 pizzicato C's at the very end. And I conducted 2. I did the first, the second, and then I just stopped, and they played the 3rd one afterwards. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't even know what I said. I don't even know what I said, and I don't even know what I was thinking. Maybe it was like the book was so new and unused that it wasn't open the whole way, and the last C was kind of tucked away. That was awful. I've had, you know, I'm a lot better at checking additions now, but you know, lots of times where you go in and it's a different edition, they have a different rehearsal system, and so I'll be like, letter K, we don't have letters, we have numbers. Oh, okay. Do you have measure numbers? No, we don't have measure numbers. So then I would sing like something to the first violin. So I'd say, oh, what measure is that? Okay. And occasionally that will still happen if I'm missing some rehearsal issue like that. I mean, a million fails, they still happen. Those kinds of situations, like where the setup is unworkable. You know, I remember conducting the youth orchestra in Pittsburgh in a concert in Italy. I think it was in Rome, and we were playing kind of amongst all these statues outside, and there were people like behind statues where I couldn't see them. I'd be like that, and I mean, lots of situations like that where it's not like a perfect situation. You have to deal with it. Wrong notes, you know, that happens all the time. You have to fix those things. If it's a brand new edition, that's the worst. You know, when they have brand new parts, there are usually like 100+ problems in that will happen. They'll play them and then they'll say, do you want this to be this or that? You know, and you have to deal with a lot of those kinds of questions on the podium, and that's where I mean that's where you earn your stripes, and if you can survive those kind of situations, that's good.
It is,
and it's awful afterwards if you don't.
Yes. I remember that pizzicato thing. I remember my first Rhapsody in Blue.
Yeah.
There's that huge fermata.
Yeah.
The orchestra did it. I didn't.
So you were like,
so humiliating.
And they were like,
they all stopped.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be horrifying. So then what do you do? Do you own it and say, oh, I don't do that fermata?
No, I laughed and I said, you know, there was no way out of it. You know, it's like it was very obvious that I was so nervous in that rehearsal, and they had played it a million times. Yeah. So it's like I'm the non-American in the room, you know, and I'm doing Rhapsody in Blue. So it's like, so I started laughing. I said, well, now you know you don't need me, right? But, you know, let's fake it. And then, you know, we start breaking the ice because there's no other way, you know, there's no other way. So, anyway.
That's funny.
Now, tell me about one of those situations, the opposite, one of those situations when the concert ended, you go like, yes, this is why I do this.
Well, I know you've conducted Verdi Requiem, right?
Oh my God. You know, the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. I mean, amazing.
Libera Domine de morte eterna in die. At the very end, you know, when the soprano does that, I've conducted it once. It was, I think, 2 seasons ago in Syracuse. And when I got to the end of that, I felt like I've arrived. That was just, it was so amazing to finally, because I sang it in the chorus 1,000 times. I know, I've been the backup conductor for it a million times, and it's just sort of like one of these pieces that's been on my radar, but I hadn't had the chance to do it.
Right.
And I'm sure you were in the chorus when we did it at IU with Porco.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So Bob Porco was the conductor. The chorus was giant, and it was incredible. Michael Belknap was the tenor, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we were in the sea of tenors, and just that a cappella chorus at the end with the soprano. From the producer of music standpoint, from the chorister standpoint, it was incredible to be a part of that, and then to finally be on the other side as the conductor, I felt like I arrived.
Yeah.
This is, and I feel that way about a lot of those big choral works.
Yeah.
The choral orchestral repertoire, like you mentioned, Mahler 8, Mahler 2. That's another on my radar that I haven't. Every time I get a chance to propose it, I do. But it's really expensive to put that on. Any of those big Mahler symphonies, with all the extra brass and all the soloists. But it's the kind of piece for me that, once I get to do it, I know that I'll have that feeling of just, I finally arrived. This is it.
Yes.
This is the mountain I've been working towards. And I do feel that happened with me with the Verdi. That piece, it just means a lot to me. It's one of the reasons I love music so much, is that early impression at IU of being in that chorus, being amongst all those hundreds of people making that music, and just being a very small part of it, and feeling like it was like a life-changing event. And anytime something like that happens, where it's so much anticipation,
I know
that it happens like that. What about for you?
I'm afraid of repeating you, but yeah, right there. Because when I finished it, I couldn't believe, it was like, I can't believe that I did it. These people trusted this crazy guy in a leadership. It was amazing. One last question, Maestro.
Okay.
I believe, and I didn't invent this, but I've heard that a conductor is a tripod: politician, musician, administrator. And I've heard, and I agree, that no one is good, is like equally good in those three. Which one are you the strongest? Administrator?
Well, I would hope that it would be the music one. I mean, that's what, like, the whole time you're in school for it,
Sure.
you're not working on the politics part, except, in your little relationships with people. You're not really an administrator unless you're putting on like an ad hoc orchestra concert, which I did. Sure. And then you're working as a librarian, as the setup, as the marketer, as a development director, as a caterer. I mean, all those things you're doing as a, in addition to the music. But, I put the music first. I think that's the thing that I'm strongest at. I know that a lot of people have a lot of success in the conducting world if they're really good at that second one, the politician part. Sure. Because in order for you to be hired, you do have to be charming. You do have to be able to not anger people. Sure. With whatever, and you have to be able to make sure that people know that you appreciate what they do. Sure. If they're like a volunteer for the orchestra or on the board. Sure. And expressing that is, I think it's natural for me. I work really hard at that part of it, and I think my success as a music director with orchestras is probably it probably shows that I've had success in that area. I think that that's really important, and I think it's extremely underemphasized in training conductors, because people are like, oh, you have to work on this and this Beethoven and this and critical edition and make this analysis. And, I know. And people don't talk about all the other things that you need to be able to do, especially now, like in a world where the arts are you know, like the situation for what we do is tenuous,
It is.
in terms of like, you know, like the immediate future, especially, but the future after this, is it going to look the same? Probably not. And if you're only focused on music, there's no way
Right.
that you will survive it. You have to know, you have to be flexible and be able to adapt, and also be able to work with people
Right.
collaboratively,
Yeah, because
which
I
takes
mean,
politics.
as a conductor, one of the few jobs in the world where you cannot do it alone, period. I mean,
Yes.
there is no way that you can be a conductor without people.
How do you feel about that right now? I mean, this is what, as a conductor, we like we can't be around other people to conduct them. So what are we doing? Like, we
We're
can
doing
study, we
we're
can
doing
plan,
lives from
we can do
Brazil.
Instagram live. You know, I'm doing a lot of planning, a lot of programming,
Yeah.
but you know, my conducting muscles have completely atrophied. I like this used to be so strong. It's no longer strong. This muscle was so strong, and it's completely weak, and it's going in instead of out.
I know.
But you know, like, I think that this is going to take a lot of creativity, a lot of flexibility,
Yeah.
and it's not going to be a one person solving everything. It's going to take a lot of smart people.
Yes.
And if you're not good at the politics part of it, and I think politics is probably, it's the right word, but there's so many negative connotations to the word
Right.
politics. I think
Correct.
it's the sort of like, are you good with people? Are you
Right.
able um, to get to convince people to go on the same path as you?
Right.
Or
Larry.
are you flexible enough to accept someone else's direction? And all of that is
Right.
needed in a good political, you know,
Yeah.
savvy
The
person.
word I think you just used it is flexibility. It's like we're going to learn to be flexible in ways that, I mean, we're all like yoga practitioners,
Yes.
because it's like there's no way that we're going to get out of this without changing a lot. It's like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
No, absolutely.
Maestro Low, this has been a glorious half hour, and so much fun, and I missed you so much.
Oh, likewise.
You are a bright light in this world of darkness. No, but
I'll say
I
the
mean,
same thing about you.
no, honestly, man, I think, I hope in a couple of years we'll look back to this mess that we're in now. And unfortunately, without going into details, both our countries are kind of in a bigger mess than
Yeah.
others, but let's stay there. And I hope we can look back and say we survived. We did it, and we were so creative. Look at
Yep.
this.
Yep. Yep.
And I wish you all the best. And we'll do this again at some point. And
Please.
when I'm there in the United States, we'll go for some coffee.
Definitely. I look forward to that. Alex, thank you so much for reaching out to me. And I talk about you all the time. Jen, she knows all about you. I'll play through the Beethoven Adelaida. We'll do you remember? So like the audience may know that, yeah. I would go in to rehearsal, like our master's conducting chorus rehearsal class. We get there a little early. I go over the piano and I play just the first couple notes, and you'd say, no, 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 Heinz. Then you would start singing. It was so fun. So fun because, you're just so fun to be around, and we had a great time, and I look forward to getting together in the future.
Absolutely. And whenever we're out of this mess, I want to bring you down to Brazil. I brought many Americans, and we'll do something here, and you'll have fun. Okay.
Look forward to it.
Cheers. Peace and
Cheers.
love, and I'll see you later.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry. Bye
Bye,
bye.
Alex.